Hi, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the latest news on Dylan Rounds by ABC4 News. Now normally you'd see videos on YouTube with ABC4 along with an article online on Google which could read out like a transcript. This time though there doesn't seem to be a video, so I'll read it out to you in text format and break it down as we go along. Now, credit to Julie who sent me the screenshots because I couldn't access the site because it's in the US and it doesn't allow people from outside to view it. Same happened to Sunshine when she tried attempting to go on it herself. So we'll see what it's all about, and yeah. And then later on in the video, I'll share with you some Facebook related information and screenshots to do with Dylan. Okay, let's get into it right now. And as we go along, if you're in the chat right now, appreciate it. You can leave your thoughts and your reactions and comment on stuff as we go along. Okay, right, here is the article. So here is the beginning of the article, top stories. And it's titled Missing in Utah, Box Elder Sheriff to Retain Control Over Investigation of Dylan Rounds. So retain means to continue on. So, we heard recently about the whole scandal, the police department being exposed for their incompetence, lack of transparency, lack of communication, lack of professionalism, and yet the sheriff wants to continue being in charge. Box Elder County. That's not looking good, is it? Let's move on to the story itself. Now, I don't know if the text is too small for some people, so I will zoom in, okay? And we'll just scroll down as we go along. So it reads, Salt Lake City, ABC4. It doesn't seem as if the Box Elder County Sheriff wants to turn over the investigation of Dylan Rounds to another agency. So that's not good, the way things have gone and they're being awkward. You see, this is exactly what I predicted in one of my previous videos where I said I wouldn't be surprised if they act like gatekeep the investigation, the case, that they want to be the ones to solve it or to control what happens. That, is there some kind of suspiciousness going on behind that? Do they not want other people to get involved because they know other people will do a better job, so it will make them look bad, Box Elder County? Or is it because they just don't want the case to be solved because they're tied in it in some way, or they know a suspect who works with them in some way? Leave your thoughts in the chat, okay? Let's continue reading. The 19-year-old vanished on Memorial Day weekend, and endless searches for him have produced little evidence of his whereabouts. Well, he's 20 years old now. They never seem to include that. Rounds' parents have been frustrated with the lack of transparency by Box Elder County Sheriff's Office. The couple even urged the Sheriff's Office to let another department take over the case. So yeah, with the lack of transparency, whether it be the Boots, being told much later on about that, not being told of certain investigations such as going to Jim Brenner's burnt down trailer at a point in time, stuff like that, and just trying to reach out for regular updates, non-existent. So that's what I mean by the lack of transparency and clarity. So that's the first slide. We'll just zoom out there. And then it continues on saying, Monday, they got their answer. Justin Rounds and Candice Cooley met with the county sheriff and detective in hopes of improving their relationship. We got no extra reassurances, said Candice Cooley. Nothing. The detectives wouldn't even look at us in the eye. Wow. It was the first time the two groups met face to face since a brief meeting with the sheriff's office in early June. Since then, Cooley said they'd been cut off from any information. So that's really not looking good, is it? And the whole, face-to-face meeting, that lacking, it shows like a lack of care and importance towards the case and how the authorities deal with things. If you remember Candice Cooley in the last interview by East Idaho News, she said about during the searches at the start or so, like one of the detectives said they would do like a video call virtual meeting over a webcam discussing information and the case of Dylan, not even face to face. It's not looking great, is it? And the whole lack of face to face meeting, it's not because of the outbreak, the virus. That's time's moved on, things have gone back to normal, or to an extent have, so they can't really use that as an excuse either. The quote where it said the detectives wouldn't even look at us in the eye, that says a lot. Now, depends how you interpret that. Do they mean the detectives didn't look them in the eye because they were ashamed, embarrassed? That can happen at times if someone is a bit embarrassed, a bit shy, of somebody or of their own actions. They just can't look at someone. If someone is guilty, they tend not to make eye contact, and they end up looking down at the ground or looking around, and then people think, oh, it stands out to them, so it makes them look suspicious. I mean, the other way of interpreting it would be they're not giving eye contact, just like how they weren't bothered giving much information away or time for briefings and meetings. Maybe they just don't see the Rounds case, the Rounds family as important and just think, yeah, whatever. You can leave your thoughts about that. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So, they won't even respond to my emails, she said. Okay, so even digitally, they're not even communicating properly. Says Rounds vanished from his farm near Lucin in western Box Elder County. His boots were found on his property. His pickup truck was also parked and had been power washed. Well, most of that checks out. Though the bit where it says about his boots found on his property, is it his property? Originally, I was under the assumption it was the grain shed, that surrounding area. But in recent time, people have said Dylan doesn't own that land. Somebody else does. And that Jim Brenner, also known as James Brenner, is the caretaker of that grain shed. So I don't know why they're saying it's his land, Dylan's, when, from the looks of it, it's not. Anyway, what else have we got? About the pickup truck parked and had been power washed. Does it say at his property? Actually, this is the thing. Let's just look back over this, because as said, when it comes to language, we've got to be clear here. The way they are wording this, which is incorrect, they're saying the boots were found at the property. His pickup truck was also parked there and had been power washed. But that's not the case. If they're saying property, do they mean property in terms of where Dylan literally lives, where his pickup truck was at? Or are they talking about a part of property owned supposedly by Dylan, such as the grain shed, in which the boots were actually found there and the grain truck was inside the grain shed? But as we know, the boots were at the grain shed. Dylan's truck, his Ford F-150 Raptor, was at his place of living, at his trailer, which was further east, 5 miles, parked up, power washed, looks like it wasn't moved. The only reason why I'm just wording it out like this is because this information on screen can be misinterpreted, leading to misinformation, okay? So hopefully that makes sense to you. If any of you are confused and there are other people in the chat right now, feel free to maybe word it more appropriately if I didn't do a good job, okay? What else is said? Deputies eventually took a missing persons report from the parents but wouldn't go to the farm to search for clues. It took several days before they appeared. Cooley said the sheriff's office has not been interested in solving her son's disappearance, but they won't turn the case to anyone else, according to Cooley. And here's a quote. They're not going to relinquish control, she said. They're not going to let go of the case. I don't know if they want to come out in public and say that because there's so much publicity about it. Okay. So she's not aware. I mean, in terms of the whole publicity, Box Elder County haven't really been that public or open. You know, whether it is down to releasing information to the public about the case, bits of evidence, or, you know, just like receiving interviews, being questioned by correspondents, by people from the other news channels that tried reaching out to the representatives of Box Elder County. They were quiet. They weren't around, keeping a low profile. So I don't think they would come out publicly saying, oh, we're here to stay. I think they're just trying to keep as quiet as possible whilst gatekeeping the case from the looks of it. Let's zoom on. Cooley went on to claim that Sheriff Kevin Potter read from a press release the agency had prepared. Potter stated they would continue to work in collaboration with the FBI and another agency. Cooley said Potter was going to post that information on the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office Facebook page as of Friday afternoon. There was no mention of the post on Facebook. Okay, so that's interesting, that. So there was a press release. Okay, bit of, activity going on. And they want to continue working with the FBI. Okay, so there's cooperation there. But it says working with another agency as well. I wonder who that other agency is. And have they been around before within the case? Or is this like a new group coming in? Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about that? And who do you think this unknown agency is? Okay, kind of interested in that. I remember Candice Cooley in one of the previous news reports, I think it might have been Fox 13 News, and it was like when she was talking about the post-investigation of Jim Brenner's trailer, and she said that is it called Box County or Elder County, did a good job in fast response in dealing with the investigation, but Box Elder County, not so much the same. Boy, it would be good to have other people getting involved, other agencies working alongside. So maybe that's what she's meaning, and it's just so happened to tie in with this on screen. But once again, lack of promises made, and just incompetence, because look, they're saying that, okay, we're going to post information to the public on Box Elder County Facebook page, which anyone can view, and they failed to do that. And it's similar to, I don't know if it's overall the Dylan Brown's case or just mainly the investigation of Jim Brenner's trailer. There was no reports, no talks about it whatsoever when the investigation went underway. There was no mention of it on the Facebook page, and that's what Candice said. So once again, what we're seeing patterns, reoccurring ones of incompetence, people saying they'll do this, and then they end up not doing it. And this is an example. Let's continue reading. Okay, so I believe Candice is saying this. That meeting Monday, it was nothing, said a frustrated Cooley. Justin and I didn't get anything more. I guess in terms of information on the case and overall. Okay. Dylan's father, Justin Rounds, didn't mince words on his Facebook about his and Cooley's meeting with the sheriff's office. Justin has urged the family's supporters to vent their frustrations too. Okay. So where it says Justin didn't mince words, does that mean Justin didn't talk shit about them publicly online? Is that what it means? Or does it mean just like Justin kind of like kept quiet, like not, revealing anything to the public because he's trying to show respect? I'm not quite sure how to interpret that bit. Let's move on. Candy says, I am exhausted. This fight that never seems to end, Cooley said. It's unreal. Meanwhile, numerous volunteers have been conducting their own searches for Dylan, such as Scott Natal, Earthworm, Infotainment, Ty, Salty Pancakes, and then there'll be other people as well. Cooley explained that these individuals are getting more help from the public than from the sheriff's office. One group concentrated their searches in abandoned underground mines. Is that to do with Scott Natal and Les Nuttall? I guess, because they did go into a mine at one point, or it might have been a cave. But this is what I mean. Is it a surprise, though? It can apply in many other different situations. Sometimes the people that help the most are, well, would you say the least likely? You could say that in a way because you don't know who is going to come along to help in that sense. Whereas if you're looking up to certain authorities and groups, or you have an expectation that they're going to help and they're going to stand in. And then when they don't, it's like, oh, and that obviously has happened here. But, when you get these rogue, off the grid people, or just like casual everyday people, they can put more effort in, more care, more time, depending on the situations, and do a better job. I mean, it's happened before with other cases, so no difference once again. And although Candice, it was all about, relying on the police at the start, despite knowing that they weren't doing a great job, and then relying on them again and pushing aside the general public help because of supposedly causing trouble within the investigation. Now it's been said on here that she acknowledges that they are more helpful. So, a few little contradictions here and there, but, never mind. Carrying on, it then goes on to say James Brenner, the suspect in Dylan's disappearance, allegedly told close friends that underground, according to sources, Brenner, who remains in jail on unrelated weapon charges, failed a polygraph test. The Box Elder County Sheriff's Office failed to share this information with Dylan's parents. Okay. So, why did it jump from told close friends that underground must have cut off somewhere on the text, but the main point here is that he failed a polygraph test. So it's like a lie detector test. So he would have been asked numerous questions. I don't know what about exactly, whether it's all to do with Dylan or to do with the gun charges, as it says on there, unrelated charges. And that's how he failed. But yeah, that's not looking good. If he's lying, then obviously he's got something to hide. And maybe he's trying to be awkward as well, not reveal the truth, because he wants to remain in control, in power, and there's no way he could benefit at this moment in time if he did reveal the truth. That's one way of interpreting it. You can leave your thoughts down below. I know some people did mention about this whole polygraph test and how it could make him more suspicious, I mean, it's just trying to understand, literally, what was it to do with? Was the lie detector test directly associated with the Dylan Rounds case, and Jim was being asked questions to do with Dylan, like, where is he? Do you know what happened? Did you see anything like that stuff? Or is it just gun charges unrelated, saying, where did you store your guns? When did you first steal one? Are you in possession of one right now? Those type of questions. If he lied there, then it doesn't directly mean he's completely guilty with Dylan rounds, because it's unrelated, the questions and the whole test. Though what it does reinforce is the suspicions with Jim Brenner, in the sense that if he's lying towards unrelated charges, he's lying there, then there's a chance he'd probably be lying when it comes to the Dylan Rounds case as well. So you can interpret it however you want, okay? You can leave your thoughts down below. And, it's an important thing that the whole polygraph test, it's progression made within the case, a form of investigation, do you call it interrogation maybe? And the fact that the parents, who are the main ones caught up within the case as their son's gone missing, and yet they're not being told information like this. I mean, okay, it makes sense if the general public didn't know of this or were told late, because the general public hadn't really got anything to do with them. But for the parents to be in the same situation as general public, it really shows a lack of competence and professionalism within Box Elder County. And it's like, why are they not passing on the information? Is it because they're just not thinking? They're oblivious? They don't care? Or they're just being awkward? Like Brenner, maybe. Yeah. And then down below, it then goes on to say, the public is furious. The world is furious, said Cooley, addressing Box Elder County Sheriff's Office. The whole world wants to bring Dylan home, and you guys are sticking your head in the sand. I don't get it. Slight exaggeration where it says the whole world is angry, because the whole world doesn't know of Dylan Rounds. There might be a few people here and there from different countries that will, but it's not like a worldwide case, if that makes sense, compared to maybe other missing people stories. There's a chance that if this became a cold case, became a bit more mysterious and darker, spread about by bigger popular YouTubers and other platforms, then maybe more and more people from different countries would hear about it. But, I wouldn't say it's like a big scale one compared to others. That's just my opinion though, okay? But it's true about the public being furious, because, there'll be people out there, whether it be because they support the Rounds family, they could be friends, or they might have had an experience similar themselves in the past, or they just relate in some other way because they have a family themselves. That's why they're furious, and they're showing empathy towards how the mother and the father must be feeling, and they don't think the way the case has gone has been done fairly or been treated with respect compared to other missing people cases. So yeah, it makes sense. What else then? It then goes on to say, ABC4's calls to Box Elder County Sheriff's Office were not returned, as we said earlier on. Move on to the next slide. This bit is actually continuing on from the cut-off point of the bit down here, there, where it says friends that underground. This one here. James Brenner, the suspect in Dylan's disappearance, allegedly told close friends that an underground mines would be his choice if he wanted to get rid of a body. Now, that ain't sounding too good. That does sound very suspicious. But what we've got to ask ourselves is, when did this conversation take place? During the time of Dylan going missing, after it, or before, or way back in the past, just talking with friends? You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where you could make a joke to someone and say, oh, I wonder where the best place to dispose of someone is. And you could be just joking around, dark humour. And then fast forward a few months later and you're caught up in a case and you're seen as the main suspect. People look back at previous social media posts and conversations and they see what you said then. What you said back then had nothing to do with what you were going to do in the future. It was just a meaningless, casual joking around conversations, maybe acting a little bit inappropriate, but it was just messing around. And yet, because you're the main suspect now with a different case, they're tying things together so it makes you look worse. So that's what you just got to try and understand. Like on screen here, I know James Brenner is the main suspect, and there's a few little bits and bobs here which could tie him to Dylan's disappearance. With like the gun charges, even though they're unrelated, people could associate the usage of a gun, a firearm, when he shouldn't be in possession of one, associating that with the means of taking out Dylan, hurting him by shooting. And then looking back at Brenner's past criminal record, his previous history with hurting, attacking people, acting out, being uncontrollable, a danger, a threat to the general public, tying that with his tendencies of, taking it out on Dylan and Dylan being the next victim. Mainly just using historical based evidence and associating it with a current case, that type of thing. As it says on screen, close friends, allegedly told close friends. So it's not 100% for definite. And who are those close friends? It's got an S on. Now, in the past, when they referred to a friend, that was, in the end, Don Hatley or Don Hately. Okay? But on here, it's saying friends. So who would be another friend of Brenner? Could it be Robert Aviles? Because they supposedly shared, I think it was them two, shared a trailer at some point. I think I'm correct in saying that. Chase Venstra was with someone who was originally with Brenner in a relationship. I think it's that way round. So if you know in the chat, feel free to leave a comment, okay? Let me know who do you think are these friends as referred to on screen? How many friends does James Brenner have? Okay, we've heard of Don Hatley, but who else? And those other people, are they tied up in the case as well? Okay, it's worth just taking a look at. And as I said, I don't know if this conversation that was, talked about previously was during the time of Dylan's disappearance or just beforehand. I don't know, it doesn't give a date, so that's what you got to be careful with, as I said beforehand. But yeah, the whole talk of an underground mine, it's, just reading it from there, it looks like he's hinting. Could he be hinting? Obviously not, at the time it was just talking to friends, but with that being, let slipped in a conversation, could that be Jim's way of telling people that's where Dylan is at? Now this is the thing, when it comes to underground mines, a few explorers, hikers have been in them, such as Scott Natal and I think Lance from Earthworm Infotainment with Ty. But they've only been in a handful, or so many at least, not every one, because supposedly there are quite a few mines out there, I saw a comment where someone said there was like 14,000 mines out there. I don't know if that's true, but I can imagine there'll be a fair few. Whether it be so many mines with several entrances and exit points maybe. There's vast land out there. It's quite open. There's holes in the ground or the side of a mountain or something. You never know. When I did my map analysis of both Montello and Lucin, mainly Lucin. There appear to be mining locations. I think one was near Pilot's Peak, or near Pilot Road. Then there was one northwest of Dylan's grain shed where the digger excavator was. And then there was one just before that as well, another zone, northwest, just before the wash, if I'm correct in saying. So with these possible locations on the land, within the area, within distance, maybe Jim could have took Dylan to one of them and dumped him in. And if there is a lot of mines in the area, it's going to take time to explore them all. Now, you can't take this on screen like 100% like for definite in terms of that's exactly where Dylan is at, because it might have just been an old conversation in which he was just talking randomly, James Brenner. But if it was meant and it was a hint or slip of the tongue, Freudian slip in a way, revealing the truth in a hint, then obviously that would be the main location to be looking at, the mines. Leave your thoughts down below. Do you think what James said was true? Was he messing around? Was it just a casual, meaningless conversation, or was it more relevant to the timing? Leave your thoughts. And then, last slide, I believe, it then says, ABC4's calls to Box Elder County were not returned. Okay, we saw that. At this time, a $100,000 reward is being offered by family members of Dylan Brown's for information about his whereabouts. So that reward is still out there and still ongoing. So they've not retracted it yet. And yeah, that's it for the article. Right, so after that ABC4 News update article, Candice did step in on Facebook providing an update, or I guess a correction, saying, in the report, it is the Elko County Sheriff shown in the cowboy hat. They came out and assisted us in the public search on the Nevada side. Box Elder did not assist on the public searches on the Utah side. We organised that as a family on our own. On Monday, when Justin and I met with Box Elder, they read us the press release they were going to release in the next day or two, we were told. That has yet to happen 4 days later. Okay? So there you go, some important points mentioned. You can leave your thoughts and responses down below. Once again, we're just seeing patterns, overlaps with how, the LE, Box Elder County, deal with things, making promises, going back on them, times keeping quiet, not being, vocal as how other people would be in other departments, them gatekeeping the investigation while still cooperating with other departments and agencies. The gatekeeping it from the looks of it, and it could be for selfish reasons maybe, like they want to be the ones that solve it so they can say, oh, we've got a good reputation. They want to hold on to that reputation, whether it be how they've performed previously with other cases or just this one. They want to maintain their form, avenge themselves, even if they're not capable of doing it, but they're selfish enough, maybe ignorant enough to continue on. And I don't know if there will be a video, like a proper video interview with Candice and Justin regarding this. As of this time of recording, I've not seen any footage, only this news article in text. So maybe they might talk at a later point. But, it's like that sense of just when you think things couldn't get any worse, a department, how they've gone about with things, lack of progress, evidence from the looks of it, and you're thinking, right, useless. Let's write these letters on these postcards, send them out to the state of Utah, as we saw in a previous post, petitions, people all getting together, demanding for change, for them to step down, and then you see by the sheriff and they're like, nope, we're not doing that. And Do they have the power to do that? You know, what about the ones above them, the state of Utah? Can they step in? Are they going to? Or is this just how it's going to remain? What's going to happen next? You know, are they just going to drag things out and continue that had they done previous? It's not looking good. You know, okay, you might be able to reach out in between to other news channels and other media coverage, but the main people on the case dealing it are not really doing a good job. I mean, it's one of those things where it could come down to you've got a random explorer, hiker, whether they're a known person right now or a new individual, comes along and accidentally stumbles across something, evidence, or Dylan himself, you know. That's going to be my new prediction, okay? So I have made a few predictions over time and I've got them right in terms of the sudden peace treaty with different YouTubers, predicting that. Predicting how there would be an outbreak afterwards of drama, once again, predicted that. Kind of like a rough prediction of the Kylie Rodney case where I said, oh, it'll probably be solved shortly and then everyone will come back to the Dylan Brown's case. That's kind of happened in a sense. And made the predictions of Box Elder County being awkward, not, you know, being truthful, and, you know, not stepping down, gatekeeping. That's what's happening right now. So I predicted that. My ongoing predictions are to do with the court with Jim Brenner and the one in October that Don could appear, could show up, depending how things go. There could be a bit of confrontation, there could be a bit of conflict. That's an ongoing prediction. It's not happened yet. I'm going to add to the ongoing predictions and say the way things are going, as I just briefly said before, there's more chances that an explorer, hiker, general public individual could be out there directly searching, just going about, doing their own thing, looking in different areas, and they do find Dylan, or they find some remains, or they find some evidence which then ties on and goes on to a lead, which then eventually leads to the case being solved. The question is, at what point, when? That's unknown of. It could take quite a while, but it just seems more likely general public could do a better job than the actual LE up to now. That's been the case, I'd say. I mean, one of those things where the only reason why, from the looks of it, that Jim Brenner's trailer was searched, looked at, was because of the general public pointing it out, reporting it, saying, hey, you need to come down. Because from the looks of it, Box Elder County originally were like, so what? Who cares about the area? It's not of interest. That's what Candy said from what, you know, Box Elder County originally had to say. So, one of those things. Now, we don't just stop there, because what I want to do now is just share with you, it's still to do with Dylan Rounds, just some social media related stuff, okay? Now, remember in my previous video, I think it was, to do with Dylan Round's Pinterest account and a casket found on his page, which he added at some point. Bit suspicious, bit odd, stands out. If you want to see that video and the images and the discussion, feel free to click on the link above, or there should be in the comment section the link to the previous video. Okay, so make sure to do that. But one individual said in the chat that they found a Spotify account to do with Dylan, but it was missing a certain letter, so it's probably not him. That probably is the case, because there is just random people called Dylan Rounds. That will happen. So, yeah. Would it be a surprise though if he had like a Spotify account or some kind of music related one? Not really. I mean, you know, depending what music he's into, farming music, country music, whilst he's on the farm, working, listening to music, maybe. It would make sense, it would tie in together. Would it really reveal anything though? Probably not, because, you know, things like Spotify and other like ones like that, just music only, where there's no direct messaging, no messages at all, friend requests or anything like that. I don't think it would work the same as like on TikTok, which Dylan was on, where you can post videos, you can edit and do all that, but you can also have friends, followers, following, and also the direct message part. So there is that, and same with Facebook as well. So it just depends how things are revealed. Now, tying it on with Facebook, I did see, I don't have the image with me right now, but it was mentioned on Salty Pancakes community tab. It was like a screenshot of Justin Round's Facebook account. And I think it's to do with Justin Rounds saying like he's had enough with the way Box Elder County have dealt with the case, just complaining, showing emotion and frustration, which is normal. And yeah, I mean, the one interesting thing to take from that is, from at least my point of view and what I've seen previously, Justin Rounds always seemed like kind of quiet and reserved, especially mainly in the interviews. He's just sat back, arms crossed. I mean, he might have been frustrated inside, but he was holding it together and he didn't really show off much emotion. And then, although it's only text-based, but you can imagine it with maybe certain words used, his frustration showing, and it's all normal. I guess it might be a new observation for certain people who haven't seen that side to him, that's all. But speaking of Justin, when looking at his profile, although I can't access it because I don't have an account, I did see a photo, and I think it must be a throwback to a conversation he had, Justin Rounds, with his son Dylan Rounds. Let me share with you that photo and read it out. Right, so here's the picture. A bit of a dodgy one the way it's been taken. I took it on my phone of my computer screen because the only way to view that image on Facebook is on the PC whilst not being logged in or having an account with Facebook. So it's the only way. And from the looks of it, it's does it give the date? Well, yeah, it says Thursday, January the 27th, but I don't know what year. I'm not sure of. And it's just basically a conversation between Justin, as I said, and Dylan. If we just zoom on in, you can make out the profile picture of Dylan. Appears, I don't know, it's like a younger person, and they appear to be stood in front of a tractor. Maybe when he was younger. It's just like the height of him, he looks small, so it might have been when he was younger. Stood in front of a tractor. We will refer back to that shortly, okay, because there is a change. Now, the conversation down here just simply reads, "That's crazy, we should buy some ground. Yes, I thought with the development in Phoenix, it's got to be close to the fast-growing area in the US, so look it up. I just didn't think it would be #1. I love that you look at things like that. You are basically just like me. How do you feel about that, lol? I was surprised too. I watch Land all the time." So I assume the blue box is Justin, and then the blacked out one is Dylan. Just talking about farmland. I don't know if this is referring back to maybe when Dylan was getting a farm for himself, moving to Lucin. Like, you remember the whole conversation with Candice saying how in Idaho, East Idaho, West Idaho or something, that the land wasn't available, whether it be the size of it or the cost of it being expensive. I'm not sure they're referring to that here, but to do with Phoenix and other places around America. Let me know your thoughts down below. When do you think this text conversation took place? What year? Recent time or way back in the past? Okay, so as I said just before, what I want to do now is kind of like a comparison between Dylan Round's Facebook account and his TikTok one. Let me share with you now. So here we are on Dylan Round's Facebook page. First thing to put forwards is the family did get access to the account previously. but they did let everyone know that it was them in control of Dylan's account, so there was no confusion. Now, I don't know what they did exactly. I don't know if they changed the profile picture, because as you can see there, if I can zoom in, I don't know when that was taken in the past, obviously. That's supposedly of Dylan. Don't know who exactly took the image. But yeah, that image is different to the one you saw in Justin Round's photo of a previous text conversation. So maybe it happened way back in the past that. I don't know if this profile picture was the same one before Dylan went missing or if it was only added after he went missing, okay? If any of you know, feel free to leave a comment down below, okay? The background artwork just of the sky, which is probably on his farmland, maybe from his TikTok video because of the sun rays. There's a couple of photos, but I can't access them because I don't have an account, but try and zoom in. Black and white one, I don't know if that's edited, filtered, or if that's literally an old one of what the land and area used to look like. Maybe. And then there's another one there of one of the trailers or pieces of equipment with the sunset in the distance. And I assume that's the mountain border over that way as well. And the land. So yeah, there you go. So, take in mind that profile picture. And we'll just refer back to Dylan Round's TikTok account. So as you can see on screen, once again, same profile picture as the Facebook one. That's interesting. Now, from what was previously said by the odd user was this profile picture on screen on TikTok it wasn't originally like that. It changed after Dylan's disappearance. Maybe it was the family accessing his account, but at the time nothing was said. Oops, notification. Nothing was said at the time about Dylan having a TikTok account. They were only talking about the Facebook one when logging in to try and see if there's any like clues or to reach out to people, to let people know what's going on and so on. So it makes you think if that was the case, that the profile picture was changed on his TikTok account as well, could that be applied to the Facebook one? But then if that was the case, why would anyone need to change the profile picture? How does that solve the case? You know, isn't it best just leaving things untouched? But then again, there are some people who did tamper or touch bits of evidence, which probably wasn't the best of ideas. You can leave your thoughts down below what you think of this. So yeah, that's kind of it for this video. Just wanted to throw those little bits and bobs at the end because it's all to like social media and Facebook and stuff, so why not? We'll see what happens next. If there is any updates, follow-ups, official news videos, probably will be. I would expect them to be because it's happened beforehand. And yeah, if there's any corrections, any questions, any additional points anyone wants to list down below in the comment section, feel free to do so. That's it for now. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.